trending down, but how far can we go? Let's find out over the next couple of months. This is Sean Richard. I'm here with SRT Live. Thank you so much for joining me. And we're in for a treat today. We've got a lot of information to cover as we head into the end of Christmas week. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of you out there in interweb land. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you. Glad to have you aboard on this journey. And we're going to be covering a lot of data today. We had a slew of information come in last week. We've got, even though we've got a holiday coming up this weekend, we've got a good amount of data and some really important information right at the tail end of this week. So let's get to it. As always, we're going to start with our week in review. So last week, as we all saw, we had the Fed interest rate decision. The Fed increased the Fed funds rate by 0.5% or 50 basis points, means the same thing. So depending on how you hear that information, 0.5%, 50 basis points, all the same. And we heard from Jerome Powell as well. Now, the 50 basis point increase was expected. It was kind of telegraphed by the Fed ahead of time. This was on the heels of a better than expected CPI or inflation report that we got the prior week. So really interesting. I'm sorry, Tuesday of last week. So really interesting to see what the Fed's determination of where we are with regards to their target inflation rate. Remember, the Fed is targeting core inflation to be at 2%. Now we're well above that. We're at about 6%, but we've got some information on the horizon this week that hopefully will give us a little bit more insight into that. So we got the Fed decision, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what Jerome Powell said. The Fed finished their meeting, announced the 0.5% increase to the Fed funds rate, and then Jerome Powell spoke for a little while at a press conference afterwards, and so we're going to get into that. But the thought is that we're going to see a 0.25% increase at the next Fed meeting, which is the beginning of February. So we're going to keep out for that. What we want to see, what we hope, is that the Fed will start to slow down on their quantitative tightening or increases to the Fed funds rate. That's going to help with the mortgage rate environment, really, as we start to see inflation come down. So we're going to take a look at that. Now, we also got jobless claims, as we do every Thursday. That's initial and continuing. So for those of you tuning in for the first time, initial claims are individuals filing unemployment for the first time. Continuing claims are those renewing their unemployment benefits. And a pretty low-key week when it came to the numbers. A lot of times we like to look at these numbers to see what direction we're trending, compare that over the last couple of weeks, and compare it to analysts' expectations. Well, guess what? The can't even read my own handwriting. We got a reading of 214,000 unemployment claims. Now, this was down from the previous reading of 231,000 and a beat on expectation of 230,000. Now, this is throwing a bit of a wrench into things because we saw the weekly unemployment claims starting to rise, and all of a sudden, we got this below expectation number. So is this an anomaly, or is this going to be the start of a new trend, something that we're going to watch? And then continuing claims came in exactly as expected. Market analysts were expecting 1.671 million, and we got exactly that. This was basically right in line with the previous reading of 1.670. So no shenanigans or nothing crazy to report there. Now, going into this week, today, we got the NAHB Housing Market Index, NAHB, National Association of Home Builders. And this is really a builder sentiment report. This tells us how builders feel about the upcoming 6 months or so in the housing market, how they expect the new build environment to be for them. And so this is on a scale of 0 to 150, anything below 50 being a little bit pessimistic or not so optimistic, is a better way to say that, about the environment. And then above 50 is going to be optimistic about the near future. Now, this has been hovering under 50 for a little while now, but it came in a little bit below expectations. The market analysts were expecting a reading of 36 on this survey, and that would have been up from the previous reading of 33. Came in at 31. So builders not necessarily having the best outlook going forward. Now, home builders, I love you, but I think you could be missing what we expect to see next year. I think we're going to have a positive year. That's just my take, just my opinion. But I think we're going to have a lot more optimism than maybe the builder survey suggests. Now, we also got housing starts. And the market is expecting 1.415 million. And I apologize, I got to go grab this data for you. Here we go. So market was expecting 1.415 million. Now this is on the heels of last month of 1.425. So what we ended up with was 1.427 million. Now this is an annualized rate. So this isn't just for the month of November. This is an annualized rate. So annualized rate of 1.427 million. So beating expectations, showing that we're putting up homes maybe a little bit faster than market analysts are expecting, and right in line with where we were the previous month. We also got building permits, which were expected to come in at an annualized pace of 1.47 million. This was a big miss. This came in at 1.342 million as an annualized pace. So quite a big difference from what we're expecting. And then significantly below last month's reading of 1.512 million. So we're going to have to keep an eye on these two items. Building permits, of course, permits issued for commercial projects. So it's not just single family residences. This really tells us it puts us in the know on the pulse of the construction community. Obviously, if there's more building going on, then a healthy chunk of that is going to be housing. Whereas housing starts are going to be the quantity of homes constructed, single family and condos, things like that. So big miss on the building permits. We're going to watch and see how that translates into additional starts. Could be seasonal, but we want to keep an eye on it. We also got CoreLogic rental data today, and this was telling. So last month, now CoreLogic rental data, this is actually for the month of October. There's a little bit of a lag in this data. And the previous month, so for September, it showed that rents were rising at a pretty significant rate of 10.2% year over year. October came in at 8.8% year over year. So we're seeing a deceleration in the speed at which rents are rising. And if you'll note from previous SRT Live broadcasts, housing makes up a significant portion of some of the inflation reports. Actually, 39% of the CPI, Consumer Price Index, report is made up of shelter. So rents decelerating is a good thing for inflation. We should see that filter through into future inflation reports. Now, let's take a look at the week ahead. We've got Wednesday, existing home sales. This makes up the majority of our housing market. So that's going to be an important number and data reading to take a look at. We also get the consumer confidence. We want to gauge the pulse of the U.S. population and their outlook on the economy and heading into 2023. That's all on Wednesday. On Thursday, as always, we get the jobless claims initial and continuing. Also on Thursday, we're getting the third and final reading of Q3 GDP. Now, if you recall, we had a negative GDP for Q1 and Q2. Old school definition of recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. Nowadays, they're taking into consideration the depth and the breadth of the economy or the economic downturn. So we'll see where that third reading comes in. We were positive on that last reading. I think it was 2.3, 2.6. So we want to watch that as well. And then on Friday, this is the big one. We end the week heading into the holiday with PCE. This is personal consumption expenditure. This is the key inflation report that the Fed looks at. The core inflation on the PCE report is what they want to get down to 2%, currently sitting at 6%. Now, we also get the University of Michigan consumer sentiment report. So we get a couple of different consumer sentiment reports this week. Want to keep an eye on that. We get new home sales as well on Friday. And the bond market is closed. So we're not going to see any movement really in mortgage rates on Friday, since they are tied to mortgage bonds or mortgage-backed securities. So that's all on Friday. We end the week with a bang heading into the holiday. Now, what I'm focused on this week and heading forward, well, I'm focused on what we heard from Jerome Powell. The November inflation data, Powell stated, was a welcome reduction in prices, but it's good to see progress. But we just have to understand we have a long way to go. And Powell was referencing the current PCE core rate of 6%. Versus the Fed's target of 2%. So we do have quite a ways to go, but we get a PCE report on Friday. Let's see where that comes in. And then we are anticipating, or he did telegraph, a 0.25% increase in the Fed funds rate in their February meeting. So we want to see a slowdown in those rate hikes in we call it quantitative tightening. We want to see that slow down. So some good news, but at the same time, kind of mixed messages from the Fed, which is kind of their MO, but we'll see where it heads. We also want to keep an eye on, or I'm focusing on, housing activity as inflation and interest rates decline. So as inflation declines, we should start to see interest rates decline. We've already seen it. Interest rates are down 0.5% to 1% from where they were 60 to 90 days ago. And since the Fed feels inflation is declining and rates have declined from recent highs, how are we going to see that impact real estate activity? So existing home sales is going to be an important one. Pending home sales will be another great report that we want to watch in the coming months. The housing activity has declined as rates have risen. We have more people sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to change a little bit. So what is sales activity going to look like over the next few months? Normally, December, January, even into February, we do see the pace of sales slow down. It's pretty much cyclical and annual. So as we creep into the end of Q1 of 2023 and into Q2, are we going to start seeing that pick up? Now, a little bit of prognosticating on my part. I do expect to have a very robust housing real estate market next summer. I do feel that we are going to see inflation continue to decline, and that's going to result in reduced interest rates. And we're going to see a lot of those individuals that are on the sideline coming back into the market. So if you are a real estate agent watching this, hold your head up and be ready for a great 2023. If you're a home buyer, just know, if you're on the sideline and you just don't feel like right now is the time to buy, have faith that we are likely going to see a better environment here over the next 3 to 6 months. However, if you are a buyer and you are keen on building wealth, buying in our current market could not be a better situation. Yes, we are in an elevated rate environment, but ask anyone in the industry, because demand is down by a healthy margin, that also means competition is down. 6, 9, 12 months ago, you were competing against 10, 15, 20, 25 other people for the same home. You had to bid $20, $50, $100,000 over list price just to be competitive. That is not the market we are in here in DFW. So now is a great time to be able to win a contract on a home and beat out the increased demand that's coming as we head into the spring and summer of 2023. That is my prognostication for next year going into the summer months. That has been another episode of SRT Live. I want to say again, I want to wish each and every one of you a super Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. If you're checking us out on the Powerhouse Facebook group, thank you so much for being part of our amazing community. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that way you can have up-to-date real estate and economic information in the palm of your hands. Again, I am Sean with the Sean Richard Mortgage Team. This has been another episode of SRT Live. Thank you and have an incredible holiday season. Take care.